Starcraft 2 is the best RTS game. It's so easy to get into and satisfying to play. It was the last peak of the RTS genre before it became a playground for indie devs and AAA just milking it for remasters. When Starcraft 2 came out, it felt like everyone was playing it. The multiplayer scene was massive and I even gave it a shot and quickly gave up, because my brain is not that big. But everyone loved the game because it was really good and had a great campaign gameplay wise. And now it's just on maintenance mode and, well, it's not entirely dead, but it's a shadow of its former self. How did we get here? Starcraft 2 is a great game and my RTS of choice, but it's a Blizzard game, so of course they messed it up in some way. Time to review the last RTS game Blizzard will probably ever make, and the last great game Blizzard ever made. A game you play for years without getting tired of it, despite Blizzard's best efforts to make you hate it. If you enjoy the video, like and subscribe. Gameplay! This is the part that's pretty much flawless. They just made it all so easy and nice to control with quality of life changes. As if they looked closely at the last RTS games they made and said, let's remove all those little annoyances and keep only the good things. 12 unit selection caps, gone. Clunky pathfinding, gone. Control groups visible in the UI, finally here. There's more stuff, but this is the stuff I noticed the most. You could say that they sanitized the dirty parts, and they also did that with the visuals. The horror vibe that was in Starcraft 1 is pretty much gone. There is only slight hints of it remaining here. Sure, when you kill Terrans and Zerg, they leave bloody corpses, but the atmosphere is completely different. Starcraft 1 was Aliens vs Predator, but this is more Michael Bay Transformers. Horror element gone, but we still have the action, and that's good enough for me honestly. It's less intriguing, but still fun. As for audio and visuals, it's great, same as the previous games. Punchy guns and explosions. They could be punchier, but it's good. I never got tired of the audio, and there was nothing that jumped out at me as annoying. Controlling the units is buttery smooth. Select a unit and then click a location and the unit will go exactly there with no weirdness. And it will take the optimal path, and when you have a group, it's like they get as close as they can without just merging into a single unit. And then they move just as if they were a single unit. Just a big murder blob. The pathfinding is just perfect, just A to B with no nonsense. The only thing you will have to manage about the pathfinding is when your ranged units get into combat. At that point they will quickly form an impenetrable wall that other units won't be able to go through, and you can easily solve that by moving a portion of them out of the way or do some stutter stepping. So attack move, then normal move, repeat until combat is won. The key thing is that I always feel like my units are doing exactly what I want, and that's why I love it. The selection window is maybe a bit cluttered when you have a lot of units, and it isn't very apparent which unit you have selected if you're tabbing between them. But just look to the right and you'll see if you have the abilities you're looking for. So it isn't really a problem even. And for me, there is usually like 2 units maximum that have abilities that I actually use regularly. And I can just have control groups for them, which are finally visible in the UI with nice little icons. So I don't have to attempt to keep track of my control groups in my brain. For a zoomer like me, that is a Herculean task. I'll set the control group and 3 seconds later I'll see a flashy set of keys and forget what year I was born. There is a good variety of units for all the races, so if you're a tactical mastermind then you have a lot of options. And to a casual scrub like me, they all look good and are fun to use. But I'm a bit of a basic bitch. I like the basic units. Like Marines and Medics, Stalkers, Zerglings and Mutalisks. I'm happy with just them. They're great, so everything else is just extra. That's enough about the units for now. I think it's better to talk about them more later when I talk about Co-op Commanders. I am a casual, and to me the races feel balanced. At least to me there was never a race that I looked at and felt like they were ridiculously OP, like I felt the Protoss were in Starcraft 1. It always felt like an even playing field. Well, until I play Raynor in Coop Commanders on Brutal, and the enemy is Protoss with Arbiters and High Templars. That's pretty much a hard counter, and those are supposed to exist in a game like this. So I'm fine with it. I should have just been building battlecruisers anyway instead of being an idiot. So to me the balance is good and there are counters. There's a list, I checked. Now let's talk about what I play these games for. The campaign. Starcraft 2 has the best campaign gameplay-wise. They have the most fun, interesting, diverse and creative missions in any RTS I've played. And it's best to give a few examples of the ones that also highlight the race asymmetry. There's one where the planet is on fire and you need to break into a temple as the Terrans. So you need to harvest as many resources as you can before you have to fly your buildings over to the next resource node. Do that until you win the mission. It's there to teach you that Terrans have movable structures. You also use that in the mission where lava rises and recedes. Harvest minerals when no lava, retreat up when lava. For the Zerg there's this mission where you have to spread creep fast so you can destroy massive battlecruisers. There's also a lot of destroy this thing or get this object and don't let the enemy destroy the object. And capture the zone on a time limit. It's a lot of variety and they are never boring. Hell, my favorite mission is probably the most boring sounding one. It's the one where the infested attack you during the night and die off in the day. So then you can clear out the infestation. It's a great combination of building defenses and units to attack. And it's just really satisfying burning the buildings down. Clearing the map. It's like power washing. Campaign is full of great and fun missions. Every campaign will also have special mechanics or upgrades for the units and buildings that can change how you play. For Raynor you can buy upgrades for units and buildings, basically increasing their HP or attack speed, stuff like that. Or you can buy mercenaries, which are just better versions of the normal units. And finally the research, where you get to choose between two possible upgrades when you have enough resources, which you mostly get from side objectives in missions. These upgrades are the best, like the automated refineries upgrade. It makes the early game faster and I don't have to dedicate as much supply to the SCVs. The other highlights are the tech reactor and the call down supply depots, so you can skip the construction on them. It's great progression, makes you feel like the army is becoming stronger along the campaign. And the same is true for the Zerg and Protoss. For their units you just select one of 3 upgrades for each unit and you can change it at any time. And it's stuff like Zerglings running or attacking faster, but also more substantial changes, like the swarm host being able to burrow and be hidden, or letting them attack air and ground units. Or Protoss zealots attacking by spinning and damaging everything around them, or they charge in and stun enemies. Every option is good, but some are more generally useful than others, and you'll find something to match your playstyle. The unique mechanic for the Zerg is Kerrigan, where she levels up and you choose options that you can change at any time. And she's a powerful hero unit in all the missions. She has Kinetic Blast, which just deals huge damage to a unit, or summon Banelings, which is very useful. Or summon Leviathan, which makes a lot of missions a cakewalk. There's more, but you get it. And the evolution missions, where you play a mission showing off 2 upgraded variants of a unit and you can only choose one. Like the Hydralisk evolution, where you can choose a Lurker or an Impaler. The Lurker is great at shredding light units and Impaler great at shredding heavy units. It's more variety and the missions act as great tutorials. The Protoss have ship upgrades that give you abilities like warping in a pylon, some artillery, passive healing for some units, a big laser and more. These campaign upgrades make the campaign more engaging. They make you progress for gameplay upgrades rather than just the story. But in some cases, they can make the campaign pretty easy depending on the difficulty. Especially in the Zerg campaign, which is already the easiest campaign. The campaign gameplay mechanics are good. They're not why I keep coming back to the game, but they're part of the reason. Part of the sum total. It's good gameplay plus pretty cutscenes plus fun challenge plus co-op commanders. That's the big one. But to wrap up general gameplay, it's fantastic. You feel like you're completely in control of your units down to the finest details. They have good animations for movement and combat, which makes beating the enemy that much more satisfying. I'd say it's pretty much perfect because I can't find anything to complain about. Sure, I could complain about the time it takes for units to get trained or buildings getting built if I wanted to nitpick, but it happens so fast here that it wouldn't be a valid complaint. I think if it was any faster, then that would just make the game way too chaotic. Gameplay perfect. Co-op Commanders. I feel like this game mode is the magnum opus of the Starcraft 2 devs. They took everything good about the campaign gameplay and put it into this game mode and built on it. Every commander is like a sub-race of their own race with very different playstyles. Like Raynor is all about marines, medics and battlecruisers, Nova is about an elite strike force that's highly mobile, and Tychus is about a one-man army or 5 operatives who are individually one-man armies. Or play Stukov to play the Starcraft version of a zombie horde. There are 18 commanders and each one has a unique playstyle and mechanic. This mode is the reason I played the game for years, because me and a friend kept playing it together. This mode is genius. PvE multiplayer for an RTS, giving the people who only play campaigns a reason to keep returning, playing and grinding for commander levels. A commander starts at level 1 and can go up to 15, and for each level you unlock something like a unit, an ability, or an upgrade for units or buildings which make the commander a lot better. And sure, they are gating things off to make you play more, but also it makes it easier to grasp what the commander is about and get used to them when you start at level 1. You get the fundamentals and then build on it, and you do level up pretty fast, at least for the early levels, with one match getting you one level. And one match is usually around just 20 minutes. That's pretty short to me. The grindier aspect of the commander leveling system is in the prestige system and the mastery levels. Once you hit level 15, you start getting mastery levels, and you can invest them into stuff like lowering cooldowns or increasing attack speed. Or you can prestige the commander, resetting him to level 1 and unlock a prestige talent, which will change the way you play them significantly. Let's look at 2 commanders and their prestige talents. Nova. She spawns a hero unit after a few minutes. She's a stealth unit, so you can sneak around and slowly destroy the enemy just with her if you're good with micro. But you will need support from her forces, and for that you only need to build one of each military building, which will then generate unit charges, which you use alongside a lot of minerals and Vespene to summon them anywhere you have vision. These unit charges generate pretty slowly, and the military buildings have tech requirements. Like to build the factory, you have to build the barracks and the engineering bay first. The first prestige talent, Soldier of Fortune, removes this tech requirement, and you can build the military buildings in any order. And the first one you build will generate charges faster. The cost is that the second and third buildings you build will generate charges slower than usual. This talent is nice if you want either a flying, a mech, or infantry focused army. Nova also has the tactical airlift, so she can move her force instantly to any location where you have vision. And the Griffin airstrike, so she can airstrike a location you can see. and the second talent reduces the cooldown of the airlift, but increases the airstrike cooldown. It's good if you're looking for mobility. I never used the last talent, but Nova gets permanent super cloak and 50% reduced cooldown for abilities, and they get 50% increased radius. The cost is that she can't use her combat suit and loses super cloak when attacking. I rarely use the combat suit anyway, so that doesn't really matter to me. But honestly, I don't really see the use case here. To me, Soldier of Fortune is much more useful. Nova was really fun. You just make a small mobile murder blob that's pretty strong because of the unit abilities. Most of them are on autocast, so it's not a micro hell. I just needed to use Nova's abilities and the Ravens, throwing down turrets and shooting off mines. Everything else takes care of itself automatically. That's pretty much what she's about. You don't really need to think about details, especially since you can summon units anywhere. And you don't need to make a lot of buildings, it's mostly just focusing on combat. Stukov. You have an infested colonist compound that spawns infested, and they will go to where you place a psi emitter, attacking anything in its way. You also make bunkers or barracks to make infested marines. You buy marines from the barracks and bunkers automatically spawn them. So you should be making bunkers close to the battle. You can also support them with infested siege tanks, diamondbacks, banshees, liberators, or brood queen. He also automatically spreads creep across the entire map. It is very much a zombie horde shambling across the map, slowly destroying everything. I find them to be more defensive because of the bunkers and siege tanks, but the horde, supported by your diamondbacks, banshees and marines, is a strong force. And he can summon the Apocalypse and Alexander to really destroy stuff. The first talent is you lose the colonist compound, but factory and starport don't have TAC requirements. And mech units cost 30% less. So you can now spam mech units, but the horde is lessened. And if I'm playing Stukov, I am playing him for the horde. The second talent. Banshees can load up to 16 infested infantry and launch them at a ground target. Infested civilians have 30% reduced life. So this is more micro-focused, where instead of a zombie horde, you have zombie bombs. That's pretty funny, but not something I'm super excited about. The last talent is infested bunkers spawn infested troopers 200% faster. But bunkers no longer have cargo capacity, which basically means the bunkers are no longer a defensive structure. They can't attack, but they spawn free units fast, so the horde will be bigger and better, which I actually really like, and this is mostly the case with the prestige talents. There are 2 talents I don't like, but one I do like. And I like that about the prestige system. It's more variety, but it's too grindy. By the time I've gotten the last prestige talent, I will probably be tired of the commander, or will be taking a break from Starcraft again. The system would be much better if you could actually choose the talent you wanna get, instead of just progressing down the path. You have to reset the commander 3 times to get all the talents, and that's a lot of grind that I'd rather skip by just choosing the good one and resetting only for that one. I said I'd talk more about the units here, and that's because it's a good way to look at the difference between commanders. Like Nova uses Ravens to heal, Raynor uses medics, Swan uses SEDs, Abathur has a heal ability, and Karax has a passive healing beam. What I'm getting at here is every commander is very different and uses different units, so there is a great deal of variety. And you can always freshen things up by playing a different commander. This mode is great. You can play RTS with your friends in a way that's not very stressful and mentally taxing. It's the best innovation in RTS in the last decade, and it's depressing that Blizzard has just abandoned it. The worst part about co-op is dickheads that leave the game, but if they leave, then you get to control their units. Now that's a challenge. I also had an annoying guy that destroyed my buildings and didn't do anything in the mission until I camped my units at my base. The maps here are pretty much the same as the ones in the campaign, like the lava rising and receding, infested day and night map, destroying void shards, and way more. It's a lot of maps. Some are more fun than others, but it's good. I love Co-op Commanders. It's not without its flaws, but if I knew someone interested in RTS that had never played it before, I would definitely recommend Co-op Commanders. I would boot it up myself to play it with them to show them the ropes. Great mode. Story. This is where they started messing things up. When Chris Metzen was returning to World of Warcraft recently, some people were saying he's gonna fix everything. Now World of Warcraft is gonna be hardcore again. And no. All you need to do is take one look at Starcraft 2 and you'd see that's not gonna happen. He's become soft. And of course he did. He's a dad now. He's no longer the angry young guy that wrote the dark stories of Starcraft 1 and Warcraft 3. Starcraft 2 is more hopeful. It's more, with perseverance and friendship, we can defeat the evil one together. Starcraft 1 and Warcraft 3 were more Game of Thrones. This is Michael Bay Transformers. Its entertainment is mainly through the action, not thoughtful writing. The writing just gets you to the next action scene. Let's just go over all the campaigns, but the short of it is, Wings of Liberty has the best characters and overall story. Heart of the Swarm feels like they didn't know what they were doing. Legacy of the Void feels like they were on the right track, but someone tripped them halfway to the finish line and they had to stumble the rest of the way. Wings of Liberty. This is the great one. The characters are good and really entertaining. The other campaign's best moments are when the characters from this campaign show up. Tychus and Swan are my favorites. Tychus had the awesome looks like real life cinematic where he suits up. He has a great voice and that kind of a scumbag charm. And Swan is energetic and funny. Unfortunately, he only gets to be in the in-engine cutscenes. Those cutscenes are expressive and look good, but it feels like they had about 30 animation sets and they just used those to make the cutscenes. Anyway, Swan is great. He's like your cool uncle. He always gets real with ya. And he gives you a cool nickname like Sport or Champ.
Right. So, the artifact, the keystone thingy's all yours. We're in the middle of transmitting all our data to your engineer.
You have my thanks. Please relay my appreciation to Commander Raynor.
Hey, you got it, Skippy.
Skippy?
That's a key thing about this campaign, is that you have a bunch of really good characters with different personalities. And most of them really good, and that makes it so memorable, and makes you care about the story. There's also the Hyperion. I love the interior design. Spaceships that kinda look old are cool as shit. But it doesn't look too old, it's classy, like a high-end ship from 30 years ago. The aesthetics of the ship are a big reason why I like this campaign so much. I also really like the Terran military aesthetic. Especially the last part on Char where it's just one big battle. And Tychus is on a turret just having the time of his life. Okay, let's talk about the writing here. Raynor is old and jaded now after the events of Brood War, where Kerrigan murdered his only friend, Phoenix. But he is leading a rebellion against Minsk, and that's what the story mostly revolves around. And the artifacts that Tychus introduces to Raynor. Some company wants them and they pay big, and that's a good enough reason to do missions for them. For the early part of the story, it's mostly about building up your army, saving people, fighting against Minsk, and getting artifacts for money. And I really like that part. It's solid, and they really present it well. They show how the events are getting presented by the media that Minsk owns, basically. And you talk to everyone on the ship and see how they feel about things. And so you see multiple viewpoints, and it also fleshes out Raynor's character. especially in the instances where the crew has disagreements with Raynor about the things he's doing. It makes it clear that they're not just following Raynor blindly. They follow him because he's doing the right thing. He's a good man and he has the strong will required to win the war. I also like the Spectre stuff. They get presented as possibly psychotic ghosts, but Raynor kinda has to work with them, because he needs ghosts, and I would certainly trust them more than the ghosts offered by Nova. So sometimes they have to be a little dirty. And then it's revealed that the guy buying the artifacts is Prince Valerian Minsk, the son of Emperor Minsk. Minsk. God, I hate this name. And then Jimmy works with him to capture Kerrigan. That was a great twist, especially because of all the character conflict it brought. The key thing here, the conflict against the Dominion and the Zerg is done really well. The part that I don't like is the Zeratul prophecy nonsense. It's basically, here are a few missions of me chasing down a prophecy and it turns out we can't kill Kerrigan. We gotta save her, no other way. I didn't check if there was any other way, but the literal bad guy said that the only way to beat him was with Kerrigan. And that's a pretty reliable source. It's just dumb and I wish they hadn't done this prophecy nonsense. The prophecy stuff and saving Kerrigan felt forced and poorly written. Everything else was well written and an absolute joy to play. Small note before we continue. Starcraft 2 bears at least some responsibility in me stealing some of my dad's Cuban cigars. Because Jimmy D. Raynor is constantly smoking those little cigars, and then Minsk is smoking those big, girthy, throbbing Cubans, which makes them look really cool. But smoking is bad and will make your life worse. Lastly is that you can play the missions out of order in a way that kinda doesn't make sense for the story, which I don't really like story-wise. But I appreciate it gameplay-wise, because I prefer to play some missions after I've gotten a few upgrades. Heart of the Swarm is a mess. It starts with Kerrigan in a lab after she got saved in Wings of Liberty. She's mostly a normal human now, but she can control Zerg, so Valerian is having her tested. And then she and Raynor are about to leave, and then, oh no, the Dominion attacks the facility. And they have to escape, and then, oh no, they get separated. And Kerrigan manages to escape, but Raynor doesn't. And then the news say that Raynor is dead. Kerrigan gets sad and then angry and decides to take over the swarm again. Jimmy died. Guess I will go kill billions of innocent people. But also I'm the good guy somehow. Seriously, during the campaign she is constantly killing people in the millions just without a second thought. She does not care. The best example is the Protoss on the ice planet. She doesn't even consider talking to them, she just instantly says, nope, they need to die. I remember the Reavers in Starcraft 1, they are dying for that. It just felt like forced conflict because she could have at least attempted to reason with them. But no, innocent Protoss colonists get slaughtered because my space bugs need to learn to deal with a cold or something. And this is what she's like in the entire campaign. She just shows up and immediately attacks. No attempt at diplomacy, and sometimes in the campaign she will get messaged by broodmothers about what they should do. And Kerrigan will just go, yeah, my orders are kill everyone and take over the planet. She becomes human again and essentially still has a human mind, but she orders broods to slaughter entire planets anyway. She is a terrible person. Oh, by the way, that was pretty funny to me in the campaign. That they have long-distance conversations with other broods and remotely control units on different planets through Zerg Wi-Fi. Anytime Kerrigan opens her mouth, it's some dumb shit that will only make her more unlikable. And that's the problem with this campaign. Kerrigan is written inconsistently and she is a complete asshole. To be fair, she is leading the swarm. She kinda has to be an asshole to keep them in line. But she often just orders a genocide when she really did not have to do that. The other characters here are fine. For most of them I could take them or leave them, but Abathur is good. He's entertaining because he is really weird. He's basically a robot, but biological. And Stukov is good because nostalgia, and he has a human heart. And that's something that this campaign really needs. It's too emotionally detached, and everyone around Kerrigan just follows her religiously. There's no one that disagrees or challenges her, except enemies and missions, obviously. It just makes the story pretty boring. Additionally, this is a good place to bring it up. Emperor Minsk is way too passive. He doesn't retaliate or do any attacks. There is no mission where he is attacking you apart from the opening in this campaign. In both Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm, he's just lying there taking it. Kerrigan and Raynor are always on the offensive against him, and he doesn't do anything. Why isn't he sending reinforcements to Char? Or a fleet of battle cruisers to take out the Leviathans? Just do anything. Like, weaponize the side disruptors, man. It's just lame that there is no back and forth. He's just letting Kerrigan walk all over him. The aesthetics of this campaign is basically the inside of your mouth. The spook factor from Starcraft 1 is gone in favor of something somewhat gross. I talked about it in the Starcraft 1 video and I will reiterate. I don't like the Zerg homeworld in this game after reading the Starcraft 1 Zerg lore. Originally it was a lava planet and the original Zerg was a highly advanced parasite that completely takes over the host. Terrifying, right? Well, now the Zerg were just some jungle cats. Lame. I also hate its introduction. Just like in Wings of Liberty, Zeratul shows up and tells the main character, "Hello, I am here to take away your agency. You must become the Bug Mother. Okay, bye." Another thing I really hate is there's a conversation between a Protoss and Kerrigan. And the Protoss says, "You have murdered hundreds of us." And then Kerrigan says, "And you've murdered thousands of Zerg." Motherfucker, no. A Protoss life does not equal a Zerg life. The campaign also basically shows that a Zerg's life holds no value. It's the essence that matters. A Zerg is the most expendable thing in this universe and Kerrigan knows this. And she's still doing some bullshit moralizing over this. It's so stupid. This is such a great example of what this campaign is like story-wise. It's contradictory. You can just tell they did not know what they were going for. Is Kerrigan a hero or a villain? Well, throughout the campaign she's a monster, but she does like two somewhat heroic things, which are basically just her choosing to kill less people, but still killing some. And then at the end of the campaign, when she kills the Emperor, Raynor acts like she's a good person, saying, "I always loved you." Yeah man, especially when you told her you would be the guy to kill her one day. And yeah, that love story between them is not good. They never show you their relationship and make you care. They just tell you they really love each other, please care about it. No thanks. Harry Potter laser beam battle. This campaign is a stupid mess, but the gameplay is fun. The story sucked, but that opening cutscene was really good though. Legacy of the Void. Another awesome cinematic, and it's the first battle in the retaking of Aiur. Then Zeratul shows up and says stop the invasion, Amon is the real threat. Invasion happens anyway, and then Amon shows up and mind controls most of the Protoss through the Protoss brain internet. But Zeratul saves some of them by disconnecting Artanis and others from the server and dies for it. Artanis and others retreat to go gather up Protoss forces and then return to kick Amon back to hell and reclaim Aiur. That's what the campaign is about. The motivation for doing missions for most of the campaign is recruiting different Protoss clans. which introduces some different characters. And what are they like? Artanis is very standard good guy. If he opens his mouth, he is probably saying, "Together we can succeed." And that's fine, not very interesting, but serviceable. And most conversations with other characters are either just explaining lore or some sci-fi nonsense, but occasionally there is a little bit of, "I have reservations about a unified Protoss," and then Artanis saying, "You must believe." Which is why I love Alarak, the leader of the Tal'Darim. He flat out disagrees with Artanis. Artanis wants to lead through convincing people, I guess, but Alarak leads through force. Everyone that stands against him dies. Obviously Artanis would have the nicer system, but Alarak is also a sassy bitch. And that's kinda funny. But he is a great foil for Artanis. He forces Artanis to show some toughness, and to give Artanis deeper characterization, and that's great. Some character drama. Alarak was a great inclusion just for that. He is most of the character drama. And sure, he's an asshole, but he's reasonable and pretty smart. At least by Starcraft standards. He's been in a cult his entire life, but still smart enough to think outside of that and realize that working with or using Artanis is the best choice for him and his people. Yeah, Alarak is a good character. There's also Robot Phoenix. He goes through the arc of thinking he is Phoenix, but then realizes he's a robot and struggles with that a bit. It's fine. The characters are fine. There was no one I really liked or was interested in except Alarak. He's fun, but everyone else is mostly boring or fine or just serviceable as an exposition dump. The writing isn't brilliant here, but for most of this campaign, it's good. It's incredibly cheesy, but enjoyable. It works and it's a fun ride when paired with the gameplay. The obvious problem is Amon, and everything surrounding him like the prophecies. He's an incredibly boring villain. He's the bad guy because he's the bad guy. You could replace him with a squirrel and the story would barely change. He has no personality and gets no characterization other than evil villain laugh. And something about the cycle bad or something. They try to give him some depth, but it's delivered through another boring character, and it's all just, oh yeah, he wants evil villain stuff. It's just boring. But they paint him as the ultimate villain, a Selnaga, a literal god, and only a god can beat him, and so to beat him, Kerrigan, the Chosen One, must absorb Selnaga essence and turn Super Saiyan. She unlocks her Naruto Ninetales form, then shoots Amon with one laser and he fucking instantly dies. Here is a random fact. Protoss motherships have planet-ending lasers. The end of the main Starcraft story is incredibly lame and feels rushed. Like the funding got cut and they had to wrap it up on a very limited budget. Starcraft 2 story has a lot of stupidity, but I still enjoy playing it. The gameplay is fun and most of the story is enjoyable because of the good cutscenes. But yeah, the writing is stupid, lame and pretty bad. It's a stupid action movie and those are fun. Dumb fun. And that's what Starcraft 2 story is. Like 60% of the dialogue in these campaigns is just mission debriefings. Like, we need to go here because we want this. It's still fun. Before Blizzard completely gave up on StarCraft, they released the Nova mission packs in pieces. And it's a really nice change of pace. It's just a spy thriller with smaller stakes. No more prophecy nonsense, gods or MacGuffins. Just straight up military operations and some psychedelics and memory loss. Nova wakes up in some weird facility with no memories, and some guy is doing a check on her. But she gets a warning in her visor that the guys in this facility are evil, so she has to escape, and get to the new Terran Dominion and then find out who these guys were and stop them from their evil plans. It turns out it's a political military group called the Defenders of Man. They think Emperor Valerian is weak, and so they're doing schemes to weaken his regime with the plan of taking over the Terran Dominion. I really like this. They brought back political scheming and guys making moves instead of some evil entity. It's a lot more interesting. It also gives Valerian more screen time. He definitely should have been more of a presence in the main campaigns. And I like him. He's a good guy, but he's also calculating. The campaign is all about operations to find out more info on the Defenders of Man and dismantling them. Also, Alarak is here, and he does not like the Defenders of Man. Which complicates things, because Alarak doesn't care how many civilians he kills to get to the Defenders of Man. So sometimes you have to defend the Defenders of Man from the Tal'Darim. Multiple factions with different goals making moves to come out on top. Wow, it's almost a return to form. If it were a lot more dark, then it would pretty much be a return to how Starcraft 1 was doing things. This new direction was great. It brought the mystery and intrigue back. It was a lot more interesting than what the main campaign was going for. And if they were allowed to keep going with these mission packs and they kept going like this, then I think we would have gotten some good stories out of it and would have made Starcraft's story interesting again. But the damage was mostly already done. And the money people at Blizzard were just looking at Starcraft 2 as a loss, because they couldn't figure out how to properly milk it for money. So instead they abandoned it, and we only got a glimpse into a really good course correction. The Nova mission packs are good, but they're also short. Conclusion! Starcraft 2 is the best RTS game I've ever played. A game I've spent thousands of hours in, but unfortunately it's a Blizzard game, so they ruined it for me somehow. And they did that here by abandoning it because they couldn't milk it for money like they could with World of Warcraft. But seeing how that game turned out, abandonment is the better ending, honestly. And that's why Starcraft 2 is a shadow of its former self. Just simply because they haven't added anything new to it. They haven't done anything with the franchise. Sure, the story being lame turned off some people, but they're gonna forget all about that if StarCraft 3 gets announced. Especially if they have the story be more like StarCraft 1. And I think it would make a lot of money. My main proof for that is that despite StarCraft 2 being abandoned for years, there are still a lot of people playing it. Co-op queues are really quick and there's always some people talking in general chat. There is money on this table just waiting for Blizzard to take it. But unfortunately, microtransactions in their other games are making them an insane amount of money. And some people claim that a single World of Warcraft microtransaction made more money than a StarCraft 2 expansion. That claim seems to come from Pirate Software, and if that guy opens his mouth, then a lie is probably coming out. So I really doubt that claim. But it is a pretty safe bet to say that microtransactions in World of Warcraft, Overwatch and Diablo are making way more money than StarCraft 2 ever made. And that's why StarCraft as an RTS died. A series created with passion died for corporate greed. By the way, I didn't talk about the arcade because it's mostly dead. It was hard for me to find matches for what I was looking for, so I just gave up. It's sad because I had some good times on there. StarCraft 2 stands as the best RTS game, but the throne is there for the taking. Someone just needs to look at what worked. Great campaign, co-op commanders, enjoyable gameplay that's easy to get into, but hard to master. Some competition has been coming out, but no one has quite taken the throne yet. So whenever I want RTS, I jump into some co-op commanders. But the second another RTS game makes a proper co-op commanders mode, I will jump ship. Because Blizzard does not appreciate me as a StarCraft 2 player. I get a bad taste in my mouth saying this because it's a Blizzard product, but I recommend StarCraft 2. It's the gold standard of RTS, despite its mismanagement. And I give the game an Amon, out of Bobby Kotick. That's the real villain. And that's it. I've now reviewed all the great Blizzard RTS games, and what did I learn? Well, the Starcraft story was messy from the beginning, but had really great gameplay. And Warcraft 3 had a great story and great gameplay. It's just the best. And we probably won't see anything like it from Blizzard ever again, but we might see it from other developers. Like Tempest Rising came out and was good. The Scouring is in early access and that looks good. People keep saying RTS is dead. No, it's still alive, it's just smaller. But all I want is a good war campaign with big battles and at least decent writing. It doesn't even have to be an RTS, it just needs the big battles. Could even be a game like Bannerlord or a top-down hack and slasher. Just capture the same feel of old RTS campaigns. I don't think I'm asking for too much. I've had my fill of RTS for a while, and it's time for a long break. It's time to go back to the indie and small publisher games. Those are the good ones. Until then, like and subscribe, call me Uncle Brian, and have a great day.